I'm Jacob Seelman.
And I'm Tom Baker.
You're listening to Speed 77 Radio,
powered by Race Chaser Online.
We are your home for motorsports.
Hold on tight, race fans, and get ready for a show. It is time for a special Wednesday night edition of the Stock Car Steel SRI Motorsports Show right here on Speed 77 Radio and Race Chaser Online. Good evening, race fans. My name is Jacob Seelman, the voice of Speed 77. Alongside me tonight, as always, at the round table, Tom Baker, my colleague from RaceChaserOnline.com, and boy, we've got a power trio of guests tonight as we get set to talk all things motorsports, from the NASCAR Touring Series to the NASCAR Modifieds to late models and much, much more. It's everything short tracks tonight on the Stock Car Steel Show. And Tom, boy, this has been a fun weekend of racing, and I'm ready to start talking because there is a lot of material to get to.
Well, there really is. And of course, this is supposed to be our Thursday night show, but doing it on Wednesday. So let's say that there's also a lot of stuff to talk about coming up weekend as well. We are getting closer and closer to the chase. A lot of the regional series are starting to get into the really meat of their summer season and look ahead even towards some of the late season big shows. We had a great modified race in New Hampshire. Just so much before and after to discuss here. Let's just get it all started, shall we?
I say we shall, and I also say that if you're a race fan and you like surprises, last weekend was pretty much everything you could have asked for, and I say we start off with the NASCAR Touring Series because I think that's where the most fun happened over the weekend, Tom, and specifically in Loudon, New Hampshire, the NASCAR K&M Pro Series East. Boy, did they ever put on a show. Had a fantastic race, a lot of storylines. Ben Rhodes was going for 5 in a row, 6 on the season. You've got a host of guys going for their first win of the season. You've got a host of guys who are looking to just break through and get a win, period. And when it's all said and done, you have a last lap pass, you have a first-time winner with a name that resonates around NASCAR, and he's no more than a teenager himself. I don't know how you can ask for better than that, especially at the flat mile where it seems like anything can happen, but over the last couple of years, we've seen some subpar races.
Well, that's true. Anytime that the NASCAR set goes to New Hampshire, you know that there's a chance that it's going to be a great show. You know there's as good of a chance that it's going to be a dud. And the K&N East Series has had some duds, but the race this year was spectacular. In fact, all of the races at New Hampshire this past weekend were spectacular. All of them with late race drama. I mean, just a lot of things going on. The K&N East race I think we all went into this thinking that the favorite had to be Ben Rhodes. Ben, as you said, going for 5 in a row. He's very confident and going in on a high and all, runs well. New Hampshire, I mean, the recipe was there. But we've talked for the last few weeks about the fact that at some point this streak has to end. And one of the drivers that I tossed out last week as a driver I thought had an excellent chance to end the streak was Jesse Little. Jesse his driving style fits the racetrack, and Jesse was long overdue for another victory. And in fact, Jesse's long overdue to really out and take the next step in this series and become a consistent podium finisher and threat to win. And I really think that he's on that verge, and it worked out, but it almost didn't, Jacob.
Yeah, it almost didn't, and that's why we were talking about the last lap pass. He was running third at the white flag, Tom, and he was running third, and it wasn't even Ben Rhodes he was chasing. Rhodes, of course, having a late race restart violation, gets sent to the tail end of the longest line, puts him out of contention, but can you ask for any more when the leaders get together in turn 3? You just pray you're close enough to be able to take advantage, and that's exactly what Jesse did.
Yeah, it's all about being in position to win. You have to be in position to win in order to win. In position to win, then someone else's misfortune can be your fortune, and that's what happened for Jesse Little on Saturday is, again, the two guys getting together, Ben Rhodes having the pit stop malady or restart malady, I should say, having to make the pit stop because of that. It's just that combination of things, and Jesse was there to take advantage and take home the win, but he had to be in position to win it, and he definitely was. So congratulations to Jesse Little, and you know what, for Ben Rhodes, I'm sure that was a bit of a bitter pill to swallow, and maybe after the streak that he had and going in looking like a favorite, you say, well, this one got away, but in truth, I think this will be good for him because at the end of the day, he'll come back hungrier than ever now to start the streak over again. And, for at least a little while, maybe it takes a bit of the pressure off because, again, the more you keep winning, the more people expect you to keep winning. And, we sometimes can forget that this is one of the most competitive series in the sport right now with a lot of very hungry young racers who are all capable of those 4 or 5 race win streaks. And not the finish that Ben would have wanted, but certainly was a contender again. And I'm sure that we haven't seen the last of Ben in victory lane. So congratulations to Jesse Little. And a little surprised, honestly, Jacob, to hear about a post-race situation that has cost Ryan Gifford dearly.
Yeah, and I want to talk to that real quick before we get into the interview that we have with Jesse Little for tonight. But just real quickly, Ryan Gifford, I'm still not sure. They've not released all the details about who Ryan was involved in an altercation with on pit road following the Loudon event on Friday night. But Giffy fined $1,000, suspended from NASCAR until he pays the fine, and I suppose NASCAR sees fit to reinstate him, but just a tough break. I mean, we saw Giffy, he won his first race in the series at Richmond last year, and I thought that was the beginning of a big breakout for him. Unfortunately, he's underperformed this year, and this would just seem like the cap on what's been really a dreadful season for him so far.
Yeah, I would agree with that in terms of underperforming. I mean, it's just been a disappointing season, and I'm sure he's very frustrated. I've known Ryan a long time. I mean, I've known him since he was probably 12 or 13 years old racing go-karts in Tennessee, and Ryan is not the personality that just normally pops off like that for no reason, and surely I don't know what happened. I don't pretend to know the details, and I'm surely not saying that he didn't deserve the suspension or whatever have you. Just saying that it's surprising, and it's not the typical Ryan Gifford type behavior at all. He's normally very low key, just does the work he needs to do, and very fan friendly. He's a great guy, and it's just I guess just one of those situations where sometimes you just let your emotion get the best of you, and so absent of all of the details of what took place there, and I'm sure that there are reasons why the whole thing hasn't been released, and all I can say is that hope that Ryan will be able to get back at it quickly, and again we'll learn from this and move forward, and I still think he's a tremendously talented racer. We talk about magic seasons, and it works the opposite. Sometimes you just can't do anything right, and this year certainly hasn't been the kind of year I know he would have wanted to have been having. And as you said, this is basically the capper for it. So hopefully better things ahead for Ryan Gifford, and we'll keep our eye on that story as it develops. But again, to get back to the bright side, Jesse Little with a big win over the weekend, and I know you had a chance to catch up with him and talk to him about that and about his season in general.
Yeah, I did, and I want to roll the tape because this was a really great interview. Jesse just oozing enthusiasm now after the win. He's done it once finally. It took him 3 years to do it, but now he knows he can do it again. So, race fans, sit back, and Jesse Little going to explain what he's up to after his win at Loudon and prepping for Columbus this weekend.
A weekend of firsts for a lot of drivers, and going to talk to one of those drivers who had a big first win this weekend on tonight's Stock Car Steel SRI Motorsports show. Jesse Little, fresh off a win in the K&M Pro Series East at Loudon, New Hampshire, and a breakthrough it was, taking the lead in the final corner, and they say all you have to do is lead the lap that pays the money, Jesse. You did that. You were in third on the white flag, which turned out to be the position that really gave you the shot to go to victory lane. But did you expect it to turn out the way you did going down the back straightaway on that last lap?
I was having flashbacks to Phoenix in the fall last year when I was running third, and first and second got collected again, and unfortunately then I was too far back track position wise to be in contention. And those final laps up in New Hampshire, I didn't have a good of a car as I wished, and my main goal at that point was just staying close enough, staying in contention, and not making any mistakes, and pretty much just hoping that something like that would happen, and that was really going to be my only shot at a victory, was just not making any mistakes, but also staying close enough to them that if they did get collected with each other, then I was able to capitalize.
You certainly capitalized and get the first win that's really been 3 years in the making now for you. Hard to believe we're talking about you having been in the series as long as you have been already, but you look at this now and the way things are starting to play out for you, and I remember you saying at the start of the weekend, and you said it again after you got the victory, that the only way you guys were going to be able to beat Ben Rhodes was if Ben slipped up, made a mistake, and you guys were able to capitalize on the mistake that he made, the restart violation this weekend. But I also know you guys have been getting better and better the last couple of weeks. Do you guys feel like you're starting to have the speed to be able to take it directly to those guys, and maybe a little bit of momentum now with the win on your side?
Yes, absolutely. And I think the last couple of weeks have just reassured us that we have the capability and we have the confidence in ourselves that will take us to victory lane. But it was all just working that when will it happen? And I'm so happy that we were able to finally get there, and just to have all this pressure taken off my shoulders, and the team and everybody knows how hard they work, being an under-resourced, underfunded team, and it was just super gratifying to finally get there. And I think I think looking back, I couldn't have picked a better track to get my first win at. Being there with the Cup and Nationwide Series, being there with all the owners, and it being such a big race for us. So yeah, I'm just super happy, and I'm really, really excited to see what the future brings.
We've talked about your rise a whole lot the last year or so, especially with as much progress as you've made in the K&N Series. We've talked about how we knew a win was coming, but with the struggles you guys have had getting there, being so close at some of these events like you've been, and just not having things quite fall your way, what does this win mean to you, knowing that it really wasn't your race to win, but you were still able to be in the right place at the right time and come home with the trophy in the end?
I think it means just as much as if we would have gone out there and led every lap. You know, I think races like the one we just ran are they come to you as a surprise. You know, and that it wasn't something like where we missed 3 or 4 wrecks and we started 15th or something. We were fast all weekend, and people knew that, and it was just a matter of being lucky. And I think that's what it finally came down to, was just being in the right spot at the right time, and that's what the guys and I and my dad especially and I have talked about, is just, if you're in contention enough, if you put yourself, up in the top 3, up in the top 5, most of the time, you're bound to have a day go your way. It definitely did up in New Hampshire, and I think that it was a long time in the making. We were all on that verge of when is it going to happen. We've had a lot of them that have been taken away from us on late stages in the race, and to finally get it at New Hampshire, it was really special.
I've heard you talk about your dad a whole bunch over the last couple of days, and I do want to ask you, because I know how much of an influence he's been over the last couple of years, but how much has it meant to you to have him helping you along this process, and him being such a big part of you going down your path now, that wins like these, knowing that he's right there with you, knowing that he's proud of you, and knowing that between the two of you, you both have had a big part in making a day like this possible?
It's very special. It's huge for me to have somebody that I can trust and I can lean on, and I can ask questions. He's been there enough, he's understood it enough, and he knows exactly the position I'm in, being a young driver, and he was there. And it's really cool in ways where I can lean on him and ask him questions, and he'll understand exactly what I'm talking about just because he's been there. It doesn't happen as much as people would think on the track, if I need help driving, but it's just more so out of the track and talking and doing interviews and just making yourself marketable. And I think that's the name of the sport right now, is just, setting yourself apart from other drivers, other young drivers, and just showing team owners and sponsors, your potential and why you would be a good investment. And he's just huge in that part, helping me brand myself and the team. And I think we all saw it this week and how special and happy everybody was, standing there and cheering in victory lane.
You guys head now to Columbus Speedway this weekend in Ohio, as we're now really past the halfway point of this K&N East season. You've got Columbus this weekend, you've got a road course coming up in Watkins Glen, you've got another trip to Iowa. What is the rest of this schedule for you? How does it shape up as far as where you guys feel like you can go and be really, really strong down the stretch here as you guys look to make up some ground in this title fight?
We're really excited. We really started coming on strong this time last year. Right about midsummer to the end of fall was our good spot, and I don't think last year we didn't have a finish outside the top 10 the last 6 or 7 races. And I think, this year it's already starting to shape up like that. We feel really confident. I think the two just biggest question marks, and that'll be for anybody, is just the road courses. It's really hard going in as a driver that's only done them twice, only ran 2 races, and that was last year. It's hard to really know how it all is going to play out. And I guess you could say we really don't know that for any race. But this weekend in Columbus, we ran good there last year. We ran good at Langley, so we know we have a car that's capable of winning. And I think it just comes down to, like I said, just being lucky and putting yourself in the right spot to where you're in contention, and that goes for all the races. And like I said, we feel really confident with the final stretch. We've ran good at all the tracks that we're going to, and we just got to continue to be smart and let things happen the way they go. And if I put myself in the smart position I make good choices out on the track, we're probably bound to have another W.
And I know that would just put the cap on an already very impressive season for you, Jesse. I know you can't do it by yourself, and you've mentioned a few of them already, but I want to give you a chance to shout out to some of the sponsors and other supporters that help make it happen. Who makes it happen for Jesse Little?
You know, as small as a team as we are, and really only having 3 people, including myself, in the shop every day, it's huge that we can have, you know, organizations and companies that trust us and that, you know, spend their hard-earned money on us, and we're able to make them, you know, benefit from it and make them happy. And without, you know, everybody at NASCAR Technical Institute, all the students and staff, we wouldn't be in a position where we are. And that goes the same for PMC Brakes and all of our product sponsors that, you know, allow us to get to the track and that have just always supported us. And I think coming off a weekend like this, it's really gratifying that we were able to beat out, you know, the really high-dollar, high-resource teams, and we were able to do so at a track like New Hampshire, where, you know, usually the ones with, you know, the nicest and the newest equipment usually shine the brightest. But yeah, I'm super excited for the final races. All our sponsors, they've stepped behind us, and I think that they're more excited than we are probably. But yeah, I just can't thank everybody enough that helped support me and that stepped behind me.
And certainly they've stuck behind you to a point now where it's really starting to pay off, Jesse. I want to say congratulations again on a huge win at Loudon. I'm sure it's only the first to come. You were in the NASCAR Next program this year, and now I think it's really starting to show everybody why, because you guys have really come to a place where you can start to prove that you belong in the K&N East Series. Look forward to seeing you on track here in the next couple weeks, and wish you a whole lot of more of continued success going forward down the stretch.
Thank you, man. I appreciate you having me on.
And that right there is the voice of somebody who I think could very easily transition from the mile track at Loudon. And now that he's won one, Tom, you and I have talked all the time about how funny momentum is. He could very easily go to the 3rd mile in Columbus this weekend and potentially pick up victory number 2. It wouldn't be the first time it's happened in the K&N Pro Series East, and going to be interesting to watch. That's Jesse Little, and right now we've got some business to take care of on the Stock Car Steel SRI Motorsports show, but stay with us because there's a lot more ahead. We've got 2 more in our power trio of guests tonight, and a lot more to break down. A big weekend of racing coming up as well. But first, these words. You are listening to Speed 77 Radio, powered by Race Chaser Online. We'll be right back.
For 17 years, Stock Car Steel has been a leading materials supplier to the racing industry. We're proud they're a motorsports content partner here at Race Chaser Online. The biggest names in NASCAR trust Stock Car Steel for raw materials such as carbon steel, chrome moly, DOM, aluminum, plastics, and much more. You can't build a race car without the basic materials, and Stock Car Steel is the place to get them. Don't forget to also visit Stock Car Steel's sister company, SRI Supplies, for racing and industry. SRI is the place to go for all your shop supply needs. Nuts, bolts, rivets, tapes, adhesives, cutting tools, chemicals, body shop supplies, paint shop supplies, lubricants, and more. A well-stocked race shop is a winning race shop, and the path to winning begins with 3 letters, SRI. For more information, visit stockcarsteel.com or SRI-supplies.com. Check them both out on Facebook or call them toll-free at 1-888-752-7272, 1-888-752-7272.
The odds of a young girl being discovered by an industry insider while singing to herself pumping gas? 1 in 300 million. The odds of the daughter of a clergyman from Severn, Maryland spending 11 weeks at number 1 on the U.S. singles charts? 1 in 19 million. The odds of going on to win 6 Grammy Awards? 1 in 1.4 million. The odds of selling over 40 million records? 1 in 800,000. The odds of this musician and performer having a child diagnosed with autism? 1 in 110. I'm Toni Braxton, and I encourage you to learn the signs of autism at autismspeaks.org. Early diagnosis can make a lifetime of difference. Autism Speaks. It's time to listen. Brought to you by Autism Speaks and the Ad Council.
I'm Jacob Seelman.
And I'm Tom Baker.
You're listening to Speed 77 Radio,
Powered by Race Chaser Online.
We are your home for motorsports.
Welcome back to the Stock Car Steel SRI Motorsports show right here on Speed 77 Radio, powered by Race Chaser Online. Jacob Seelman and Tom Baker around tonight's round table as we roll through the regional touring level of motorsports on the pavement side. But I'll tell you right now, so much more to talk about, Tom, and we move through the regions. We go from the East Coast to the West Coast and shift from one teenage driver to another who also had a lot of success over the weekend, and the K&M Pro Series West was in action at a little quarter-mile bull ring called State Line Speedway in Idaho. I'd never heard of it going into this weekend. I had to do some research, but this track certainly, when you put cars on a quarter mile, it's going to get exciting, especially the K&N Series cars, and you have the veterans rise to the top, and usually it's a battle of experience, but in this case it was a veteran versus almost a stone-cold rookie, just making his 7th K&N Pro Series West start, and he's got the heritage, though, to back up his being in the seat, and he made an impressive drive inside of 2 laps to go. And how about this? James Bickford, cousin of Sprint Cup Series champion Jeff Gordon, picks up his first career victory on the West Coast circuit and does it in spectacular fashion, outdueling the 2011 champion.
What a really amazing young man this is. And I mean, you know, I don't think anybody should be really surprised that he got the win, but you know, he's really come a long way this season. You know, you kind of went into the season and you weren't really too sure exactly what to expect. I mean, obviously he comes in with a good pedigree, but you really just don't know for sure. But boy, to me, he's been very impressive, and he's such a well-spoken, really, really cool young kid. And James definitely has a future in the sport, and not just because of his name. I think he's legitimately talented. He's very marketable, and, you know, it was kind of neat to see him pull this out. And again, more late race drama. That seemed to be the tone of the whole weekend everywhere you and I went or looked, Jacob, is, you know, the old saying goes, it's never over till the checkered flag falls, and boy, James Bickford proved that.
That he did, Tom. That he did. And when you take down a champion like Greg Pursley, who's in the top 10 all-time on the wins list, you've done something special, and you've done something that's not easily come by, because Greg Pursley's won on these bull rings before, and you get this young kid that takes it to him, and he didn't really rough him up per se, but he took advantage of a rare mistake.
Well, and that's what you have to do. And you know, when you look at that, no, I don't think he did rough him up. You described it exactly right. It is strange when you get an opportunity as a rookie to be in that position to take advantage of someone else's slip-up, especially someone like Pursley. But that's exactly what James Bickford did. I don't think there was anything wrong with it. I really think James earned that victory, and it was a situation where he did the right thing at the right moment, and if he'd hesitated even a little, I don't think he'd have been able to pull it off. I mean, he had to do what he did when he did it, and you know, I'm happy for him. I'm glad to see him get the win, and you know, I wonder what this is going to do for this young man's confidence. I mean, at this point in the season, to be able to pull that off on the last lap, you gotta wonder if now we go through the rest of the schedule and James kind of walks with just a little bit more of a confidence, not a swagger, but a confidence, and we don't see him in victory lane again before the end of the season. It certainly wouldn't surprise me to see him back there.
Absolutely. I agree with you right there. And, he talks about it in the interview we're about to hear, that he has got a lot more confidence now, that he knows he can get it done. He knew all along this team knew how to get it done, but the driver, of course, was going to racetracks that he hadn't seen before, and he was doing some figuring behind the wheel of that number 6 Sunrise Ford machine. And now that he's finally figured it out, he's ready to go do it again, Tom. And James, he had a lot to say after this win over the weekend, and race fans, this is an enthusiastic young man who has a lot to say, and I think is going to have a lot to say on the motorsports scene for a long time to come. So let's take a listen. James Bickford after his K&M Pro Series West win in Idaho.
Jacob Seelman for Speed 77 Radio and RaceChaserOnline.com, sitting down for tonight's Stock Car Steel SRI Motorsports show with a driver who's definitely done a lot in a very short amount of time, winning in just his 7th K&M Pro Series West start this past weekend at State Line Speedway in Idaho. James Bickford. James, you've been driving for Bob Brancati Racing this season, and coming into this season, it was all about the fact that you got your chance, and it was going to be up to you to do something with it. I'd say you did something with it this weekend. You beat one of the West's all-time greats in Greg Pursley, grabbed your first career win. You've not even made 10 starts in this car yet, and you've impressed a lot of people, and certainly I know for you, you've talked about it earlier today, what a turning point this is. But talk about the move to get the win and what this means to you, because I know it's something that you guys were expecting to accomplish this season, but definitely not in the way you did.
Yes, thank you for having me on the show, first of all. And we had a little bit of a rough start to our season with Phoenix and Sonoma last week, and this has just been icing on the cake for this year. I know I came on the show earlier this year and told you that this was my big break, and I needed to do something with it. And this win is definitely a good start in that direction for what I had in mind for the season. And I can't thank Bob Brancati and Bill Sedgwick and all of the crew for helping me so much, and it just means so much to me right now. And we're definitely looking forward to Colorado. It's a similar track from what I hear. It's a little bit bigger, and that's another race we'll be really competitive in.
Talk about the move you made. You pass inside of 2 laps to go. You drive around Greg Pursley, who is arguably one of the greatest drivers in K&M Pro Series West's history, and he's turned a ton of laps in these cars at a lot of these racetracks that you've not seen before over the years. What does it mean to you to not only get your first win, but to get your first win beating somebody with as much experience, as much track time, and arguably with as much talent as Greg Pursley?
It was amazing because I knew if I could just get out in front of him that there was no passing me back because our car was really strong. Bill gave me a rocket ship for that race, and you always dream of making a last lap pass for the win in such a big race like that, and especially with a guy like Greg Pursley, it was amazing. It was one of the best feelings ever, just going around on the white flag lap with being in the lead, your heart pounding, and then finally taking the checkered flag and knowing that you won a race in the K&M Pro Series. It's just a significant feeling.
You're just 16 years old and trying to make your mark right now. You've now won a race in the K&M West Series. You're working with the NASCAR Next Initiative. You've got all these things going right for you in 2014. Have you stopped to think for a second yet? We're halfway through the season now, but have you stopped and thought about this season, and has it been everything that you expected? Has it been more than you expected? Where do you assess where you guys are at right now?
Going into the season, I definitely thought the series would be a lot easier until, of course, my first race at Phoenix. Then I realized how competitive the series was compared to last year. And I'd say going into it, I was expecting being a little bit more in contention for the championship and winning a race sooner. But after the first race, I was just hoping to have a top 10 in points and maybe rookie of the year and maybe a win next year. But expectations have exceeded from what I thought at Irwindale to now. So I couldn't be happier.
You've got to win now, and you being one of the youngest drivers in the series this year, this sport lately has been all about family connections, and I know a lot of people have talked about, of course, your cousin being Jeff Gordon and you trying to break out of that shadow and just be your own driver. But with the win under your belt now and knowing the kind of support you have and being able to rely on Jeff and all of those connections to help you moving forward, what's that been like for you now that you've finally been able to prove, hey, we can do this on our own?
I think it's a growing connection with Jeff. It's definitely going to help me down the road. And right now, it's amazing because winning a race is always a big deal in any series that you go in. Just there's more publicity around each one for the higher series you go to. And I think I am trying to break out of the shadow a little bit because most of the time when you go on a radio show or a newspaper, it always mentions Jeff Gordon's cousin, but it's taken a lot of work to get to this point, and the one thing I want people to know is that it wasn't really handed to me. I put in my time, and it's definitely something I really worked for.
And I know it's been well documented. You guys have scrapped for sponsorship too, just to get some of the opportunities you have. So definitely this a breakout win for you. And you're just 16 years old, still a teenager, and all this going on. Has the wind sunk in yet? Has all of this, have you been able to process it at all this week? I mean, I know it's all happened so quickly since you got the victory, and now you guys are getting ready to head to Colorado to try and do it again.
Yeah, I'm definitely looking forward to Colorado and trying to do it again. It really hasn't sunk in yet because, I mean, I hadn't done too many talk shows recently due to pretty bad finishes, and after the win, it just kind of all exploded again, and I'm back to where I started in the year with a lot more hype, and I couldn't be more excited for that. It's everything that I expected.
I think I heard you say a couple of times over the last couple of days that it's been like the dream that you guys were just hoping to live this season. And I think a lot of people would say you're starting to live it now, James. And I know it takes a lot of people to make this dream possible. So I want you to be able to give them some shout outs and recognition. Who makes it happen for you?
My mom and dad started me out, so I couldn't thank them enough. Without them, I wouldn't be here right now. Also, Interstate Plastics has been a great help. We're still seeking a primary sponsor, but Interstate Plastics is definitely helping out a lot. Bob and Maureen Bruncati for giving me the opportunity, and Bill Sedgwick and all of the crew. They've in Sunrise Ford. They've been a great help, and I wouldn't be in the same spot now without them.
And I'll tell you, James, I think you have a lot to look forward to, and certainly really excited to have you back on the show, a winner. I think that was one of the things you and I talked about, was when we were going to have you back, we were hoping it was going to be as a winner. Well, you've made it, my friend, and I'll be the first to say congratulations. You've worked your way up, and now you're among some of the greatest to have won in the K&N West Series, and I'm sure it's just the first of many to come. Wish you the best of luck the rest of this season, and hopefully if the wins keep rolling, we'll have you back on a few more times this season.
Thank you so much. I'm planning on it.
Wow, Jacob. I mean, what? that young man is so well spoken and so poised, so enthusiastic and so engaging. He mentions trying to break out of the shadow of Jeff Gordon, and it's obviously a nice shadow to be in, but I can understand why he wants to establish his own name and his own brand and to be his own driver and not give people the impression that in any way anything was handed to him. But boy, he's just a very impressive young man in a lot of ways, and I don't think that it's going to be too much longer before people start identifying James Bickford with podium finishes, because if passion and determination are any type of a help in that, James is going to be running up front more often now, but he really, it's great to see him get that win. And again, at a time in the season when you really want it the most, because it sort of gives you that momentum bump going into the late summer and into the fall part of the schedule too. So if he can start stringing some good finishes together here, he's got a chance to really go out on a high note this year and build some momentum and maybe get that primary sponsor behind him for 2015 to finally let him breathe a little bit and just concentrate on driving the car.
That's exactly right, and that's what he's trying to focus on now. The K&M Pro Series West getting closer and closer to their championship stretch as well. Headed to Colorado National Speedway, the 3/8 mile in Colorado for their next event. So going to be interesting to watch and see if he can make it 2 for 2 or put it back on the podium again, because I know that's what they're looking for.
It will be interesting, and can we go back for just a second, because we went to break after the Jesse Little piece, and I wanted to just touch on, again, what an impressive young man he is, and to learn that there are only 3 full-time guys in that operation, about, how small a team that is. I didn't realize that, and, to be able to accomplish a win at New Hampshire on such limited resources with a small group of people, I think both Jesse and James Bickford really deserve a huge Race Chaser Speed 77 Radio attaboy, and their teams as well, for what they were able to accomplish this weekend. 2 outstanding young men who we really believe will have a tremendous future in the sport. And not just because of who they're related to, but because of their talent and their personality and their marketability and, just their ability to engage with people.
That's exactly right, and that's such a big part of this sport. You and I have talked about this a few times. It's not just about the driver talent or even the money that you can bring to the table. While that is a big part of it, it's also these young kids have to be marketable now, and we're seeing some of these guys, they've got the personalities, and I think NASCAR's been waiting for a few personalities to break back into the sport, or a few young personalities to spice it up, and I think we're really starting to get that now, especially in some of these touring series.
Well, we are, and you're even seeing it in NASCAR's major leagues, obviously. I mean, we were talking about this the other day on our Monday night show about the marketing that NASCAR's done with the Nationwide Series in terms of, having the Ty Dillons and the Chase Elliott and, featuring those guys in the commercials and really building it up as a development series. And, we're seeing a lot of this now starting to filter up through the pipeline. And even in Cup, there are some very marketable young personalities. I mean, some of them are not with teams that right now have the resources or the abilities to run up front, but
Kyle Larson, Joey Logano, I can think of a few more.
Well, I'm thinking even of, the guys like Cole Witt and Alex Bowen and some of those drivers that are, Landon Castle, that are not with teams that, are capable of being in the front of the field right now, but certainly are marketable and very, engaging personalities that I think people would enjoy if they got to know them. And so the reason I point all of that out is to say this. When you start looking at drivers like Jesse Little, you start looking at drivers like Ben Rogers, start looking at James Bickford. We could go on for a while with the K&N guys and even, some of the younger drivers in the truck series and such, but like Eric Jones, who got the win this weekend. These are guys that, really, there's so many of them coming up through. It's really making it much more interesting, I think, for people to watch, because not only are these kids able to handle the race cars and go to the front and win races, but when you put them in front of the camera, they're not just flat. They're very interesting and very engaging to listen to. And, that interview James Bickford just did was remarkable. And Jesse Little has been composed for as long as I've known him, hearing him interviewed and even watching him when he was first starting out in the limited late model class when he was probably 13 years old. He's just a really cool kid. So it's neat to see that, and it's great to be able to have the privilege to feature some of these types of young racers on our programs here.
It really is, and it's going to be fun because we've got one more to feature before the end of the night. But right now, we're going to take a caution flag and take care of some business here on the Stock Car Steel SRI Motorsports show, but we've got more to come, including an interview from Southern Super Series winner Anderson Bowen. That's coming up after these words. You're listening to Speed 77 Radio and Race Chaser Online. We'll be right back.
For 17 years, Stock Car Steel has been a leading materials supplier to the racing industry. We're proud they're a Motorsports content partner here at Race Chaser Online. The biggest names in NASCAR trust Stock Car Steel for raw materials such as carbon steel, chrome moly, DOM, aluminum, plastics, and much more. You can't build a race car without the basic materials, and Stock Car Steel is the place to get them. Don't forget to also visit Stock Car Steel's sister company, SRI Supplies, for racing and industry. SRI is the place to go for all your shop supply needs. Nuts, bolts, rivets, tapes, adhesives, cutting tools, chemicals, body shop supplies, paint shop supplies, lubricants, and more. A well-stocked race shop is a winning race shop, and the path to winning begins with 3 letters, SRI. For more information, visit stockcarsteel.com or SRI-supplies.com. Check them both out on Facebook or call them toll-free at 1-888-752-7272, 1-888-752-7272.
At Peak, we're the independent guys, running a family-owned business. Nothing like big oil. Where American-made quality and value go into good, honest oil, with everything your engine needs to run right for the long haul. And what gets our motor going is using 65 years of experience in hot and cold protection to give you what's right for your engine and your wallet. Because we're car guys, like you. Peak. Run true.
For Nationwide drivers, every race matters. They have everything to win and everything to lose. With every win, they're closer to winning the Nationwide title. With every loss, they're closer to losing it all. They're not just racing for points. They're racing for a future. And only a checkered flag separates obscurity from greatness. This is the Nationwide Series.
My name is Joe Thompson. I'm 29 years old and I have a career that I love as a systems analyst. Career. It still sounds cool to say that word. I never could have gotten on this path without a college degree. And if the college me were here, he'd tell you.
I never would have gotten to college without Big Brothers Big Sisters. I could have ended up anywhere, on the streets even. But college? Joe Thompson? Not likely. My big brother helped me out. He taught me I could do anything, at a time when a lot of people were saying just the opposite.
And to a 7-year-old, that means a lot. My big brother's name is Phil. And Phil is the reason that this 7-year-old grows up to be a systems analyst.
Whether you donate money or time, you're helping Big Brothers Big Sisters help a child. And that can last a lifetime. Start something today at bigbrothersbigsisters.org. Brought to you by Big Brothers Big Sisters and the Ad Council.
I'm Jacob Seelman.
And I'm Tom Baker.
You're listening to Speed 77 Radio,
powered by Race Chaser Online.
We are your home for motorsports.
We're back here to the Stock Car Steel SRI Motorsports show on Speed 77 Radio and Race Chaser Online, and we're back with breaking news, fresh off the wire. The announcement that everybody was waiting for, but nobody wanted to admit was coming. Tom, the Southern Super Series losing its finale event, the All-American 400 and Nashville Fairgrounds Speedway, splitting from the organization, and that race will now become a 300-lap pro late model event as opposed to a super late model event. Driver reactions already pouring in. We'll get to some of those in a moment, but first, your reactions at one of the crown jewels finally falling away from the super late model class.
Well, I'm shocked at this, honestly. I have to believe that there's more to this than Nashville Speedway just randomly deciding, well, I think we'll just do something different. I mean, I really would like to know the full story on this. Something tells me that this is not a random thing, and it's not something that's not been carefully thought about and bandied about. I suspect we're going to find out more to this story, but my initial reaction is that obviously there was something about the arrangement with the Sunoco Southern Super Series that Nashville Speedway, either something changed, or there was something Nashville just wasn't comfortable with. That's my initial reaction, is that there had to be some sort of event that happened that started Nashville down this path. But this is going to be interesting. I'm sure there are going to be a lot of drivers that are very upset about this. Just as I'm sure there are probably a bunch of pro late model drivers that are going, wow, we got ourselves a huge race now. And this could turn out to be the marquee event for the pro late model set every year if it works well. So I don't know. I'm a little bit surprised.
Well, let me throw a few things at you here, because I know Claire Formosa Belt, the daughter of Tony Formosa, the president of Fairground Speedway Nashville, said the other day in a release that the Southern Super Series, quote, has real issues to sort right now. Who's in charge? Is it Jeff Freeman or Tim Bryant? What about Dan Spencer or Tech Director Ricky Brooks? Nobody knows who's in charge, and no one has shown a great ability to communicate, end quote. So you've got that from the track side, and then you've got the driver's side right here, where the Southern Super Series lost 3 races last year because of rainouts. And you just talked about Bubba Pollard. It's important, he says, that series officials replace the event. He said earlier today, quote, I think they need to come up with a race. I don't agree with just canceling it, because like last year, there are 2 races that could have impacted the points. It's hard to cancel these races when you've got drivers running for a points championship. And in the same way, Daniel Hemrick went on to say, in all honesty, it's just a shame from his point of view, having not been involved in the super late model ranks until the past couple of years and now getting involved. It's a race you hear everyone talking about. It's so prestigious, and that it's really hard to run these cars and see this race being right up there with the Snowball Derby, the Winchester 400, and the World Crown 300 go away from the Crown and become a pro late model race.
Okay, so now we seem to have some sort of a basis for Nashville's decision. Just as I said, there had to be something that made them uncomfortable. So it's a perceived lack of leadership, lack of communication, lack of firm direction from the Sunoco Super Series to Nashville Speedway. And so, with that being said, now you start to understand a little bit why Nashville has decided to make this radical departure and try to do something basically on their own. And then the next question becomes, well, why didn't they just keep it a super late model race instead of going pro late model? Well, maybe the answer to that part would be that they felt as long as they were going to break away from the Southern Super Series, maybe they felt like, let's try to do something big for the pro late model set and establish ourselves as not just one of several, but maybe the biggest pro late model race in the entire country. This I suspect is going to be a news story that's going to be a developing story, and I think you're going to hear a lot more about this over the next week or two. as things really start to play out here. But that's well, the Pro Late Models got themselves a great racetrack to race at and a really big race to run, and I suspect you'll see some of those Super Late Model guys running the Pro Late Model race there.
Well, and let's not forget that Fairgrounds Speedway Nashville did sign Big Machine Records as a huge sponsor for their Pro Late Model division.
That's
They're
right,
offering something up to, I think it was $5,000 as a bonus every race. So they've got a lot of money invested in the Pro Late Models, and this could be just another way to add to it.
Yeah, no doubt. I mean, this, as much as this sounds like it's a ridiculous move on Nashville Speedway's part, I'm not sure it is. If as they say, there is some sort of lack of leadership or fight over leadership or question of leadership within the Sunoco Southern Super Series ranks, Nashville probably did the right thing, because the last thing you want to do, and I've had experience with this just recently myself, the last thing you want to do is align with someone who then all of a sudden does a 180 on you, the week of the race or a couple of days before the race weekend, and, and pulls out or turns tail and runs, or whatever. And Nashville needs to protect that brand. So we'll just have to see how this plays out. But certainly a very shocking development from the Mid-South, and a little bit of a disappointing one, too. I really would feel... I'd be very disappointed, Jacob, if in fact the Southern Super Series is kind of coming apart a little bit here, because that last year was perhaps the most competitive late model series in the entire country for super late models, and just very unfortunate to even hear that there may be. But of course, that's one side. You don't know what the other side is, so we need to kind of keep an open mind on this and let the story play out a bit.
Absolutely right. And now, with all that being said, we'll continue to follow this story as it continues to develop over the next couple weeks, and want to give a shout-out to Matt Weaver, who's been feeding everybody the information as he's been getting it. Of course, Weaver, a long-time short-track correspondent, has done a lot of great work across the country, and appreciate him giving us that heads-up tonight. But as we continue to roll here, Tom, let's talk some more enthusiastic news. What say we talk some modifieds?
I always love talking modifieds.
We like modifieds on this show. We like modifieds a lot. How about modifieds at Loudon? That's one of the best races of the season. And when you add 2 for the price of 1, it's even better. That's what we got this past weekend as the Whelen Modified Tour took to the track at Loudon for not 1, but 2 races, a non-points race and a points race. Of course, the All-Star Shootout sponsored by Whelen on Friday afternoon. Boy, that was a fun race, and you had 25 lead changes over the course of the 37 laps run, the race ending a little bit prematurely because of the time limit. But Tom, a driver, get back to victory lane that hasn't been there in quite some time. Shout out to Ryan Newman. He wins at Loudon in the 7NY, one of the most famous modifieds on the tour, and it's a non-points race, but it's a win nevertheless. And the Boilermaker, he's back.
Yeah, Ryan, I think obviously Ryan's a threat anytime he gets behind the wheel of that 7NY. Actually, anybody who gets behind the wheel of that 7NY is a threat. But, and you put Ryan in that car at New Hampshire on a mile track, and certainly, he's going to be hard to beat, and he's had some misfortune over the last few shows that he's run the car, but finally put it back all together and ended up getting a win. And again, an all-star format. I don't know. I think everybody seemed to enjoy it, and I was a little surprised to see 17 guys from the north and 3 guys from the south. I'm not sure really what was going on there. I would have thought you might have seen a little more of a balanced invitation there. But at any rate, it was it was a good race for sure, and good to see Ryan back in victory lane.
He followed it up with a fourth-place finish on Saturday, but he was not the driver to sweep the weekend. In fact, nobody swept, but a driver we didn't expect to see in victory lane at Loudon ends up there Saturday afternoon, and what a win this was for Bobby Santos. I'll tell you, he's been so good at Stafford over the years, Tom, and this time he's figured it out everywhere. He's won at Stafford, he's now won at Loudon, he's got 3 wins total on the season, he's right in the thick of this points battle, and boy, what a job he did. Only leads the final lap, a race that goes 10 laps beyond its scheduled distance, and he beats out Doug Coby for the win.
Yeah, man, it's always good when Bobby Santos wins. He's so popular. I mean, I can't even imagine the roar of the crowd at Loudon when Bobby ended up winning that race. So many fans up there, and really fans all over the country because of the open wheel racing he's done, the stint in NASCAR that he had, super modified extraordinaire when he's driven the supers. He's always run well at Oswego. He's just a very, very well-liked, well-respected racer. So that was really cool to see him get the win and in such a on such a big stage. Maybe that'll do something to jumpstart his national career again a little bit. I certainly hope so.
Oh, so do I, certainly. I think Bobby deserves a second shot at the National Series once again. We've seen him run ARCA. We've seen him run in the Nationwide Series. I'd like to see him get back there. But while we're talking about numbers and winners and all that wonderful stuff, it was the 13th career Wheel and Modified Tour win. First win at Loudon for Bobby Santos, but an even more important number, lead changes. Unofficially, 74 lead changes, Tom. Around 110 laps. Officially, 35 at the start-finish line. That is a Wheel and Modified Tour all-time race record. And would you believe, 5 drivers, 35 lead changes at the stripe.
Jacob, tell me again why we don't have more modified shows on TV?
You'll have to ask Fox Sports that. I really don't have an answer to that, but we should.
I mean, wouldn't that be the perfect demo tape for the to show for the cause of putting more modified shows on TV? And then part 2 of that question is, tell me again why NASCAR hasn't done more with the Wheel and Modified Tour, and why there aren't better purses and more cars. And I mean, the modifieds have always been, when it comes right down to it, the modifieds are the backbone of NASCAR. That is the grassroots of NASCAR. I love the late models, and obviously NASCAR now, because so many more tracks run late models than they do modifieds. And even a lot of the modified tracks up north also have pro stock late model classes. I know that that's where a lot of the guys come from now, but I mean, the modified class really deserved that kind of an event just to show how good it actually can be. And anytime you get 74 lead changes, if you don't call that entertaining, you don't have a pulse.
Exactly. It was almost as entertaining as us being at Oswego Cartway on Friday night.
Well, we'll save that for the Monday night show. But yeah, it was that was a great race. And again, I think the modifieds have proven time and time again when they run at New Hampshire, and even when they've run at Bristol in the past. Now, Bristol, they, like everything else that races there, they crash a lot, but and it's an expensive trip for the Northerners to go do that. But the New Hampshire show certainly has proven time and time again to be the best show, most exciting show of the weekend, and I just have to wonder why NASCAR has not worked harder to build that series and even do more of those types of races. I'd love to see the modifieds at Richmond, for example. So some of the bigger tracks that they run, I think it would be really neat to see a modified race at Richmond as part of either one of the NASCAR Cup weekends there.
I agree. The only question I would have is whether the banking at Richmond would make them a little too fast. But I think it would certainly. It's worth some debate for sure. I'm debating with my mouth apparently at the moment. But here, Tom, this is the last point I'm going to make on the modifieds, and then I want to talk about the Oxford 250 before we go to commercial. 8-lap stretch, lap 73 to lap 80 of this modified race. So getting down to crunch time, leaders, lap 73, Ted Christopher. Lap 74, Ryan Preece. 75, Ted Christopher. 76, Ryan Preece. 77, Ted Christopher. 78, Ryan Preece. 79, Ted Christopher. 80, Ryan Preece. That is a stretch of 8 consecutive laps where you did not have the same leader. I know it's between two different drivers, but why don't we have TV cameras covering this?
Well, that's exactly right. I agree 100%. That race, to me, ought to be live, and it ought to be on a major network. I mean, some of these networks are just sleeping at the switch. And I think sometimes it's because they just don't know. But somebody needs to get, especially that New Hampshire modified race, somebody needs to get that on the main network, not on someplace like Fox Sports 2, where only 26 houses in the country are going to see it.
Hey, I have good news. NBC Sports picks up the rights to the NASCAR Touring Series for the new television package next year. I smell NBC Sports Network, or maybe even NBC, picking some stuff up, probably doing some stuff live, because I know NBC Sports loves NASCAR and racing coverage in general. I mean, look what they've done with Formula One and IndyCar.
Oh, I agree, and that's that's really what needs to happen. You need to get these major networks to do more of this. I mean, God bless MAV TV. I love it, absolutely love it. But MAV TV and Fox Sports 2, at least with Time Warner, I can't speak to any other cable company, but with Time Warner, they're both on sports-specific packages that cost extra per month to buy, and they're not even on the same package. So it just becomes too hard to, and too much money for people to spend to have these channels in these situations. So it's great to see NBC Sports Network stepping up, and I hope that this would be one of the races that NBCSN would put on their network, because it would be nice to give it a great audience and more people to be able to enjoy the modifieds and get to know them a little bit.
So let's talk super late models now. Let's go back to that card before we take our final caution flag. This weekend, one of the biggest super late model races, and now you could argue with the loss of the All-American 400, maybe the new fourth crown jewel event of the super late model schedule for the past series, but it's still a super late model race. The Oxford 250 this weekend up in Maine. Always an exciting event. You can see just about anything happen. We've seen surprise winners. We've seen familiar winners. Tom, this is one of the greatest events of the year, in my opinion, and I'm excited. It's back this weekend. I'm excited. We've got our roving reporter, Kyle Souza, going to be boots on the ground covering the event for us. This race, I hope I get the opportunity to go see it in person very soon, because it's a race where anything can happen. It's a race that means a lot to go to, and it's a race that means even more to win it.
Yeah, the Oxford 250 is one of the premier short track events in the entire country. And it's one of those events that's been around so long, and so many racers have won it that have gone on to other things. It's tradition, and it's no different than the 300 for the late models at Martinsville, or the Race of Champions for the modifieds, the Classic for the super modifieds at Oswego. These are all races. The Snowball Derby. These are all races that are just overarching races. They're races that transcend the divisions that race in them. And the Oxford 250 just has so much history and so much prestige, and it's such an honor to win it. It's one of those races that every driver just points to every year. They want to be involved. They want to have their chance, and it's a marquee event, and I hope that it goes well. Hope Mother Nature cooperates for them, and gives them a great weekend for racing. We get a lot of fans out there, and I know we'll have a good turnout of drivers. That's never an issue at Oxford.
No, it's not, and certainly going to be an exciting weekend. Hey, Tom, I want to throw a favorite at you, and it's somebody that I think a lot of people are not going to think about, but it's a driver who's come so far this year in a lot of respects, and I think not only the vibe going into this weekend, but in a way, he's got a hometown advantage. He's going to have a lot of people there to support him, and I think he's learned enough this year to win the race. I'm keeping my eye on Austin Terrio this weekend, the Fort Kent Maine driver. He's going to go to Oxford, I think, not necessarily with a chip on his shoulder, but more confidence than he's ever had. He's won an ARCA race. He's run very, very well in the NASCAR Nationwide Series this year. He's won in the past North Division before. He's not won this race, but I think it's coming, and maybe this weekend could be Austin Terrio's time to shine.
Oh, yeah. Austin certainly has to go in as a favorite for the event, and having done some national racing in NASCAR here recently with the Nationwide Series, and also having been involved in the ARCA Series and done very well at both, you're right. And Austin is an excellent super late model racer. This is basically home turf for him because he's from up that way, and I think Austin's going to put on a show. He's a driver who's very smart. He doesn't overdrive the equipment. He's very patient when he has to be. He's got a good long race mentality, and I think you're right. I mean, if I had to choose somebody that I thought could go out and get the job done, who hadn't won it before, Austin Terrio is the first guy that would come to mind, and I think he's going to be very tough.
I absolutely agree, and I'll tell you, somebody else who I don't think is going to be tough, I know was tough over the weekend, is the driver we're going to hear from after this final caution flag as we talk the Southern Super Series once again, but this time on a much brighter note because they had a first-time winner grace the stage over the weekend at Gresham Motorsports Park. We hear from Georgia driver Anderson Bowen after these final business agendas. You are listening to Speed 77 Radio and Race Chaser Online. The Stock Car Steel SRI Motorsports Show rolls to conclusion when we come back.
For 17 years, Stock Car Steel has been a leading materials supplier to the racing industry. We're proud they're a motorsports content partner here at Race Chaser Online. The biggest names in NASCAR trust Stock Car Steel for raw materials such as carbon steel, chrome moly, DOM, aluminum, plastics, and much more. You can't build a race car without the basic materials, and Stock Car Steel is the place to get them. Don't forget to also visit Stock Car Steel's sister company, SRI Supplies, for racing and industry. SRI is the place to go for all your shop supply needs. Nuts, bolts, rivets, tapes, adhesives, cutting tools, chemicals, body shop supplies, paint shop supplies, lubricants, and more. A well-stocked race shop is a winning race shop, and the path to winning begins with 3 letters, SRI. For more information, visit stockcarsteel.com or SRI-supplies.com. Check them both out on Facebook or call them toll-free at 1-888-752-7272, 1-888-752-7272.
Steven, do you like dirt modifieds and sprint cars? I sure do, Clint, but I like full fenders and late models, too.
Whoa. What about the super modifieds up at the Steel Palace?
You can find all of those and more with driver interviews on the Turn 5 Racing Podcast, released weekly on YouTube.com, Podbean.com, and on iTunes. You can also find us on Facebook and Twitter at Turn 5 Podcast. Turn 5 is a proud partner of Race Chaser Online and Speed 77 Radio. Search Turn 5 Racing Podcast.
Coming to Tampa Bay, I said we want to win a Super Bowl, and I believe we will.
From IamSecond.com.
We came close, but never really did win that championship.
Former NFL head coach Tony Dungy.
At the end of my 6th year, I was fired, and it was one of the biggest disappointments of my life. Next year, I'm in Indianapolis, get to the playoffs, but get knocked out again. And for the next couple of years, it's the same thing. Everyone is saying Colts are never going to win one. And I did wonder, why didn't it pan out the way I thought it would? But I determined that I had to have Christ first, and that everything else came below that, including my own desires. The next year, that ended up being our year to go to the Super Bowl and win it, and it was a wonderful feeling. Every decision I make, I'm going to make it through the lens of Jesus Christ, and He'd guide us to that ultimate victory.
Watch Tony's story at IamSecond.com.
I'm Jacob Seelman.
And I'm Tom Baker.
You're listening to Speed 77 Radio,
powered by Race Chaser Online.
We are your home for motorsports.
Welcome back to the Stock Car Steel SRI Motorsports Show right here on Speed 77 Radio and RaceChaserOnline.com. Jacob Seelman, Tom Baker around tonight's round table. Tom, as we get set to close tonight's show, we've got one more race from over the weekend and one more driver to hear from, and I'll tell you, this is a young man who we talked to earlier this season on the show who we thought, again, like James Bickford and Jesse Little, was going to be a breakout driver this year. He's run pro late models and super late models in the past. He's running the Southern Super Series this year, just like he did last year, and I'll tell you, he's broken out in a big way. He not only grabs his first career series win and first super late model win, period, over the weekend at Gresham Motorsports Park in front of his hometown fans, but he also assumes the Southern Super Series points lead. Anderson Bowen, the Suwanee, Georgia native, he's saying, hello, guys, I'm here, and I'm here to stay now. He wins it, and boy, he's got a lot of confidence now going into the series' next swing on the Gulf Coast at Pensacola and Mobile, rather, in just a couple of weeks. This is a young man who has the confidence, and I'll tell you, he's got the driving talent, too, to get it done.
Yeah, he really does, and he proved that with the win that he had. And, you know, here's a young man that we were talking about a few months ago, not only in the ARCA Series, but also, wasn't it Anderson? Wasn't he one of the drivers, or maybe he was the only driver? I think there were two of them, though, that actually ran an ARCA race and one of the late model races in the same day.
Yeah, Kyle Benjamin was going to do it, but ended up not doing it. I think that was the Rattler 250.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, it was. Yeah, you're exactly right. It was that race. And, you know, Anderson, just a versatile young kid. I mean, you know, there's a common theme for tonight's show of these talented young racers. And Anderson certainly proved that he could get it done. And he's a driver that I think, again, just needs the right opportunity, needs to be put into a situation where somebody gets behind him with the right amount of support to put him back into the ARCA Series or the K&N Series and give him an opportunity to go run a full season and prove that he can be a championship contender, and I think he would be.
Oh, I think he would be, too. He's run select ARCA races, select K&M Pro Series East races. Of course, he's running the Southern Super Series, but you're right, he's bounced around to a lot of different things. He's a kid that kind of reminds me, he took a similar career path, I think, up until this year to Spencer Davis. I mean, the two of them, we saw them race against each other a bunch. Neither one of them had a ton of success in the super late models, always competitive in the pro late models, but the Super was the one that eluded them, and now both of them have kind of moved somewhat into bigger and better things this year, but Bowen, of course, still running the Southern Super Series, and I think you're seeing both of those guys blossom in different ways this year. Bowen finally figuring this super late model out, but Spencer Davis actually running really well in the modified on the Southern Tour side of things, but we're seeing this year be a growing year for so many young drivers. This kind of talent is what's going to fuel our entire industry for years to come.
There's no doubt about that. And when you look at even some of the divisions, excuse me, some of the divisions that at the local racetracks, the NASCAR Wheel and All-American Series, for example, look at the late models around the country, some of the young talent in those divisions. You look at the Southern Modified Tour and start looking at drivers, as you said, Spencer Davis, Joe Ryan Osborne, drivers like that. You look at the divisions that we don't really talk about as much in this show, even the limited late models, some talent in those cars in this area specifically. You've got drivers who are very capable of moving up and succeeding at a higher level. All they need is the right opportunity and the right break. And I think that the key to this whole thing, Jacob, to help it to keep working is going to be we need more corporate support at the lower levels. We've got to get some corporate funding at the levels where these drivers are now. It's so hard for a lot of these young kids to get the opportunity from a resource standpoint to go and bring money to these K&N teams, these ARCA teams, these, even the super late models at that level. It's so hard for some of these kids to get out of the limited late models or the modified divisions. I really think if we could get more corporate dollars at the lower levels and find a way to have the resources and give these kids the opportunity based on talent and not so much on family money or, even their ability to go bring money themselves. If we can get to a point where we have more funded opportunities for them, you're just going to see an explosion of real talented racers. And it's definitely, we see it every day, Jacob, because you and I live at the short track level and you see it even on the dirt. I mean, there's plenty of good young talent in the sprint cars and the modifieds on dirt and the late models on dirt. And a lot of those kids would love to race in NASCAR. But they just, again, it's just the opportunities to get them there. So, it's fun. It's cool to go and see this, type of talent compete on a weekly basis. And it's, as I said earlier, it's just it's a ball to feature him here on the show because, there aren't a lot of other outlets that really spend a lot of time talking about a lot of these kids. And that's too bad because you can only hear about Dale Jr. just so much saying the same thing over and over. It's nice for me, it's fun to hear about who else is out there that might be the next Dale Jr. And I think we've got, we've had 3 drivers featured on the show tonight that all show the talent to go and compete at those levels.
Yeah, that's absolutely right. And I'll tell you now, we talk about featuring these guys, and the enthusiasm, I think, is what makes it so much fun. And Anderson Bowen, race fans, this is going to be a treat because this is a young man who I don't think we've seen get really excited so far this season. In fact, I think we've seen the enthusiasm lacking where he's been so bright the last couple of years. Just this year, he felt like it was a down year to start, but everything rolling in the right direction now. So before we close the show, Anderson Bowen on his Southern Super Series victory and his optimism headed towards the rest of the 2014 championship.
Jacob Seelman for Speed 77 Radio and RaceChaserOnline.com, sitting down for the Stock Car Steel SRI Motorsports show and a featured interview with a winner for the first time in his career in the Sunoco Southern Super Series over the weekend at his home track at Gresham Motorsports Park, Anderson Bowen. Anderson, glad to welcome you back to the show, and I think the last time we had you on, we were hoping to talk to you later this season as a winner, and now you sit here a winner. and you beat Daniel Hemrick to do it, one of the all-time greats in super late model racing, to grab your first win. You're just a teenager going up against some of the best in the business, but I know Saturday night how special it must have been for you, not only to get the first win, because we know that's always special, but to do it in front of your hometown fans, that atmosphere, I can't imagine it being anything else but truly special for you.
Yeah, it was just really special. Just since all my family came out and they saw me race, and my grandparents came out, so it was just really neat. Especially just battle with Daniel was unbelievable. He's done so many great things. Compete with him was really good. It was really fun too.
Talk about the move you made for the win, because it was a late race restart and you lead 2 laps of the race, but of course it was the 2 laps that paid all the money. Were there any nerves on that last green flag run, knowing, okay, we're right here, we're this close, we just need that last little bit?
We had a really good car all race, and it was just a matter of myself making the right move and not messing up. We had the whole 50 laps after the break, felt like we were way better than Daniel. But that track is just so hard to pass with, so I feel like it was just me making the right moves and not making any mistakes. I made a little bit of mistakes, and it cost me a little bit. I got loose one time and kind of slid up into him, about 15 to go, but we had to chase him back down. I was seeing he was getting really tight the more we were running, so I know I just had to take advantage as much as I could. Coming to the white, he really shoved up turn 4, so I really had to make no mistakes, and I feel like that's what we did.
For you, it's your first Southern Super Series win. You're second in the points. You've been trying to chase down the points lead. Actually had it at one point during the season, but I know the championship is still in sight for you. Does a win give you the momentum and the confidence that you guys need now that you've finally broken through to say, okay, we've done it once, we can do it again, and maybe still go out and win this championship?
Yeah, I feel like it really does, since we got the first one out of our way this season, and it was at home. And I feel like we can keep on carrying the momentum on our backs and really push us further and further. Yeah, I feel like it'll lead to some more races won too. So I feel like it's just a big plus.
I know you've still got a lot of racing on your plate left this season, but I know this win was one that you've been hunting really since the start of the season. But we know we're going to see you back, I believe, in an ARCA car before the end of this season. You've done a lot of work with Cunningham Motorsports over the last 2 years, and I know you're itching to get back in that ARCA car. Does a win in the super late model give you confidence now that you can go back into the ARCA program and work on making something happen there? Because for you, I know you're trying to work the step ladder, and this is a pretty good way to do it.
Yeah, I feel like it does, since I've proved myself in that level, in the super late model level. I feel like it would just give me the boost to now try to do something better in the next level. So that's why it really does. Since we got that one out of the way, now we can go work on another one.
And I know you're going to be working Southern Super Series coming up. You've still got a few races left before the end of the season and trying to crown a champion. But Anderson, I know this win couldn't have been possible without a lot of people and supporters. And for you, I know always important to remember them on the good days. Who makes it happen for Anderson Bowen?
Really, it's just the whole team does. It's Mark, Jonathan, Ricky, John Morgan, and Jeff. Without them, we couldn't be possible. They really worked their butts off week in, week out. So just hats off to all those guys.
And I know really big weekend for you, Anderson, as you grab your first ever win in the Southern Super Series. You'll be back in action, get a week off this weekend, and then head back for another doubleheader at Five Flags in Mobile. So take over the points lead, too, actually, as they've updated the math now. You grab the points lead over Bubba Pollard, so you talk about confidence. You're going to have a lot of it going into the doubleheader weekend next weekend.
Yeah, it really is, since we got the first win and picked the points lead over Bubba Pollard. So I feel like it's just the team, and me and the team, we're just going to keep on moving that momentum further and further.
You've got the momentum. Congratulations on the win, and hopefully we'll look forward to talking to you here in a couple weeks, maybe get that second one out of the way a little bit quicker.
Thank you. Thanks for having me on the show tonight.
So that's basically everything for tonight, Tom. We've talked to 3 teenagers, all of whom get breakthrough wins over the weekend. We've had that recurring theme of young guns taking big chances and reaping big rewards, too. So before we close the show tonight, 2 questions for you as far as final thoughts tonight. Who do you think is next, and what are you looking forward to this weekend?
Well, I'm looking forward to the Oxford 250, and I'm going to throw out another name because I just got a little bit of breaking news here. Here's another young gun that I think is perfectly capable of winning this race, and if he ever does, the Northeast, particularly New York State, is going to explode. Tyler Dipple is going to compete for the first time in the Oxford 250 on Sunday. He is currently the Pass Series National Championship points leader. I am going to go on record and say that I think Tyler Dipple has a really good shot to win this race, and that makes me look forward to it all the more because this is a young kid I think could be the next young kid that we're talking about in a K&N car, and if somebody gives him a chance, I think he would be very competitive, and that's a really interesting piece of news to close this show with.
Yeah, it really is, and I think it's going to be fun to continue to see how it plays out. Good luck to Tyler, to Austin, and to all the guys who are going to be competing in this weekend's Oxford 250. Of course, K&N Pro Series East action on the docket, K&N West action coming up shortly from Colorado. You've got the NASCAR Canadian Tire Series. You've just got a whole ton of stuff going on this weekend. The Southern Super Series off for a week before they kick back into high gear. Of course, the Pass Series, we know where they're all going to be this weekend, but for now, we know where we're going, and that's headed home. So, for Tom Baker and all of our staff here at Speed 77 Radio and RaceChaserOnline.com, this is Jacob Seelman reminding all of you to check out StockCarSteel.com and SRI-Supplies.com for all your shop supply and scrap metal needs. And until Monday night at 7 p.m. Eastern for the return of Motorsports Madness, I'm Jacob Seelman. Keep it off the wall until we meet again, and wherever you may be, we'll see you this weekend at the racetrack. Race fans, have a good night. Be safe. Enjoy your racing this weekend, and so long.